Hello, YouTube. This is Lopa Nudrin at Ngakchon Gotso, the Happy Garden of Practitioners in East Oakland, California. I should sit closer to my mic. I'm kind of looking and seeing who's on board with me today. There may or may not be. Anybody coming? Oh gosh, I have to turn my... I'm getting delayed feedback. Let me try to get this volume turned down. Okay, phew, that was scary. I was sitting here. I'm watching on YouTube to see if there's anybody there, and that one's complicated. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here today with you. I've been pondering today's topic, pondering and kind of meditating in a non-conceptual way, while interspersed with pondering. How to address the next thing that popped out at me, and I don't have it here with me, Patrul Rinpoche's Words of My Perfect Teacher, which is a book that was influential to me, but I have a kind of that kind of mind that wants to go back to 19th century classical Buddhist texts by hardliners. Anyway, I'm gradually going through, as you can see, this is number 6, and I'm going through and seeing what catches my mind as really relevant and pertinent to right now. And we're still in the topic of this precious human birth. And believe me, it goes on for page after page after page. I'm saying to myself, you got to a certain point, which I thought was, I don't know, it touched something in me. There's many lists of reasons that this human body, and a human body who has access to Dharma, is just an incredible opportunity for enlightenment that we should just grab. And one of the lists is begins with we have the perfect teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, who is the Buddha for this eon. And eon is defined as the whole period of time that this universe, all the planets and so forth, come into being, and then they dissolve, whatever destroys them goes back to nothingness. That's one eon. So this is Buddha Shakyamuni's time, the classical Buddha, who lived 2,500 years ago and created the foundation created all of Buddhism. Buddhism, gosh, I've had a lot of interesting discussions today on social media about different things, and one of them was Buddhism, Buddhist. Is that when they saw the title of this talk, whatever it is, what's it called? What if I'm substandard? And I had to put Buddhist practitioner in there to create the context here on YouTube, because otherwise it's random, right? And she grabbed right onto the Buddhist thing and said, well, that's just another ego trip to land on it, to a name for yourself, a label, and then make it a big deal out of it. And it's true, it could be an ego trip. And you hear people say, don't be a Buddhist, be a Buddha. I'm every once in a while I feel that way, that the name is useless or whatever, but I always go back to taking refuge and generating Bodhicitta. So making a decision about you're going to follow the path of the Buddhas, awakened ones, and making a decision creates a huge number of changes in our lives, really committing to the path. And then secondly, generating bodhicitta is this awakened mind, which involves the realization of the empty aspect of all phenomena, and joined with deep compassion, love, equanimity, so forth, the equalness, having equal concern for all sentient beings, all living beings. That sentient being term came into Buddhism, English language Buddhism a long time ago, I don't know. Interestingly, it sounds just like the Tibetan term semchen is a being with mind, sem is mind. Great mind, I guess. I don't know what how the chen is spelled. And sentient being and semchen being kind of sound the same, so maybe that's why it's hung around so long. I don't know. Hey Lori, nice to see you here. Welcome. And so we were having this discussion on Facebook, and a lot of people weighed in. I didn't say much because I see both sides of that. But I feel really passionate that right now in this troubled time, with so much speed, I say this every week, and I'm going to continue to say it every week. It's trauma, speed, pending environmental catastrophe. We hope not looking good. All these areas that create suffering for us to think about, to dwell on. Buddhism is a great medicine for that. And what are you going to call it? You could say Dharma is the great medicine for that. Dharma means truth, literally. It means 100 different things, literally, but truth is one of them. So what the Buddha taught. So you could say Dharma, I'm a Dharma person. Dharma, however, there's other religions that use the word, Indian religions all use that word truth for their religion. Jains. I don't know whether it's Jain or Jain religion, and the Sikhs may use it, I'm not sure. Hindu, so forth. That's a Sanskrit term for truth that gains a different shade of meaning in our Buddhist tradition. So let's do that. Let's take refuge and generate bodhicitta. And if you're not a Buddhist, it's okay. We can do that. You can take refuge and generate bodhicitta. We'll say you're doing it for an hour. And then you can renounce it at the end of the hour, but try not to be too angry about it. Okay, so we're going to sing the tune that I've been doing every week, which is just the first 4 lines of the Amitabha Pure Land practice that we do at the end of each session. Homage, the 3 precious jewels and the 3 roots. I go for refuge to these songs of refuge. I spark the Bodhicitta as supreme awakening, so I may place all beings in enlightenment. So with that great thought that we're going to attain great awakening, great blossoming of wisdom and compassion. And then we will have the capacity to bring all living beings to that same state, which is the state that you accomplish for yourself is called Dharmakaya, or the body of truth, which is it's Dharmakaya. It's kind of an untranslatable word, but what it means is, I found a great translation. It's not like a person. You don't become a person other than yourself or yourself. Dharmakaya is all Buddha's realization of the nature of reality. So if we make a permanent shift, and I have not made this permanent shift myself, but I'm working at it. That's called attaining the Dharmakaya for oneself. This peace. It's like the nirvana of the other Buddhist schools, of the Theravadan Buddhist schools, kind of. There are technical differences, but so you enter into enlightenment, and there's no suffering there. There's no I there. There's no reification of all the stuff that we see around us. And believe me, on my desk I see a lot of stuff. I'm glad the camera's aiming this way. And then we naturally emanate benefit for all living beings. And we will bring them to the same state. Isn't that beautiful? So just thinking that way, I know it's an aspiration, we aren't there yet, transforms our lives. So what do I mean by, what if I'm not up to snuff? What if I'm not, what did I say again? To look at the screen. What if I'm substandard? I spent about an hour coming up with that word yesterday, or the day before yesterday. And because I couldn't quite find, it's not exactly the same as a technical definition of imposter syndrome. When you actually, I wanted to use that word, but when I actually looked it up, it's a little bit different. But there's all these levels of insecurity we have, and some of it is perhaps cultural, and some of it may be universal. Some of it comes from our family, our general sense of insecurity, and if we have issues with low self-esteem. Or maybe if you have really, really high self-esteem, it never occurred to you to feel substandard as a Buddhist practitioner, Dharma practitioner. But I think a lot of people do, and maybe we're not even aware of it because we assume it's true. And starting with day one, that first time that somebody has you or you have yourself sit down on a meditation cushion or in a chair and say, I'm going to meditate. And what happened? You know, if you've done that, right? Or maybe you haven't yet, we'll do it now. And whoosh, there's all these thoughts. And I just had someone say to me the other day, I think I might have mentioned it last time, I can't meditate, I have too many thoughts. That's a classic line. The first time somebody sits down to meditate, and the second and third. And so there's I have lots of thoughts. There are a lot fewer, actually, than I used to have. When I first sat down to meditate, one time I counted 3 layers of thoughts. So every time one stopped, it would be something deeper that would pop up. Until it came down to just like word soup. Didn't make any sense or anything like that. It was, and I was shocked. And getting little windows between those words in my head, the stuff bubbling up, that random, our nervous system as a human is always generating thoughts, thought fragments. It's just what it does, like a factory putting this out. And we can increase the space between the thoughts by doing these simple shamatha practices, and there's really no difference. We've been going over what that word means. It means like peacemaking. What was the word I was using? Not restful exactly. Well, anyway, pacifying, calming meditation. This is incredibly popular and necessary in mindfulness meditation in general. I was, as a side note, I was thinking today about how much tolerance YouTube can handle before the whole thing explodes of silence. Can you, like, putting out words for me involves, thoughts. I'm not, hopefully not grasping them. But the thing about thoughts is, the point is you don't like chase after them. You don't hook onto them, unable to let them go, like they've got a grip on you, like they're in control of you. So thoughts, when you don't have that kind of hook attached that's holding that, grabbing on for dear life and exaggerating all these little passing thoughts which are meaningless and trivial. You get freedom. And this is what these basic practices do in Buddhism. So I was wondering whether if I just, if I had a moment in a thought-free state, if I just stopped talking, which the old lamas are teachers from Tibet, they definitely do this. Some of them more than others. One time, my Vajra brother Fred told me that one of our great lamas came into the 3-year retreat facility and sat down. He said like a few sentences, and then he stopped midway through a sentence and then just sat there, totally unself-conscious. I think it was like a half an hour or something, and then finished his sentence. Well, you might think I had a little seizure or something if I did that. I actually saw a woman talking about spirituality once who had a absence seizure during her talk. She stopped, clearly frozen in a seizure, and then started up again, like 7 minutes later. And we all just sat there. Nobody told her afterwards. I didn't know whether it was right that we should have told her or not. But anyway, I'm not having seizures. I just think there might be value to being the polar opposite of every other YouTube channel where everything is based on quick cuts and constant speed. Don't you just relax with me? You don't have to use any technique. If you want to, you can kind of look back at your own sense of awareness, whatever this field of perception you have. It feels like it's going out here, maybe. And then instead turn around and look back at that and just relax. You don't need to scrunch your brow and figure out where is that thing and what does it look like, or go through all that who, what, where, when thing that we do cognitively. You could just look back and relax. What do you feel when you do that? You're welcome to. Is there something physically that you feel in your body when you look back like that and relax, if you're doing that? You feel free to put it in the chat box there. I'll keep an eye periodically on that. So we can do the more traditional, well, this is traditional also. A more, typical beginner's practice. because people feel, sometimes will feel the need for a lot of technique, is grabbing an object and putting it down somewhere out here in front of you and looking at the object. And then when your mind, this, you can see this is a little bit more controlling, right? Ultimately, in our practice, we'll be able to be less what's the word? Controlling isn't exactly it. We'll learn to trust that our mind will come back to a state of present relaxation, opening, without props, without needing to push it back, right? And so for now, we're doing something in between where we're being gently bringing it back, gently, lovingly bringing your attention back. In my case, to these darn glasses holders. I buy my readers by the dozen. You'll know when you're 60 what this means. And because I lose them constantly, right? I've got nice ones attached to me. They always send this case that I'm never going to use. It's such a waste. They won't do it without those cases. I end up holding on to them for 3 years and then throwing them away in a big, exasperated mood. So let's do that. Let's look at our object and just bring, when your attention starts to wander and the thoughts start to inevitably come up, it's okay. Then think, don't think. Just go back to that glasses case without scolding yourself. Okay, let's start. All right. So we talked about the first kind of insecurity, that feeling like maybe my brain is different than everybody else's. Other people can meditate, but I can't meditate. There's too many thoughts there. Well, I think the problem there is, if there is one, is self-judgment rather than thoughts. That's a thought, self-judgment. Too many thoughts is a thought, right? But if we relax, the window panes will open up between, maybe the windows will be thrown wide open, and you'll experience a spacious sense of presence that maybe in this life has been shut down up to this point. It's very nice. Somebody got on, I saw a picture about, I saw a question on maybe a Reddit Buddhist forum. Yes, I am a big social media person. This week, and it was like, I've been practicing for this a long time. I've been meditating for a long time. It never gets any easier. It's never pleasant. People talk about it being pleasant. It's never pleasant for me. Everybody jumps in and says, oh, it's okay, just keep going. Actually, I think that's an issue. If it's not pleasant, we're not letting it be pleasant. There's something to work out there. Initially, sure, it's hard to sit still. It's hard to sit down, focus for even a short time. But if you're starting with 5-minute sessions, I think maybe they're starting with too long sessions, and then they're going through a lot of self-torture for the next hour, It's no need to do these long sessions. Better to do short sessions frequently, like this. When you're actually at any time in your career as a Buddhist aspirant, it's good. Later, naturally, you may find that it's comfortable and joyful to rest for a longer period of time in a state of relaxation. And they use this word bliss. I'd say more like joy. Bliss is there's a certain kind of, in meditation experience that can be, super blissful. Unfortunately, I've only had that like once in my whole 25 years of practice, maybe twice. It's not my predilection. I won't say unfortunately, because it doesn't matter. These states that you go in, special meditative states you go in, are nice because they're encouraging, and they can be bridges into awakening, I hear. Okay, so what's the second? So there's other ways that people think that they're not quite good enough, and one is they'll have it. This is when I suddenly realized. When I was in 3-year retreat, a monk came to visit from one of the big famous monasteries in our tradition in Nepal. And he told me what the daily schedule for the monks was. And I suddenly realized that most of the monks are children these days. And he very freely told us that most of the monks disrobe when they hit adulthood. And a lot of them are in apartment buildings in New York City now. Because they wanted to get married, and the same things that most people want in life, right? There's a certain kind of person that's wants a life of virtuous celibacy and so forth. So anyway, I suddenly realized that most of their day is spent, the human things. We have to eat, we have to sleep, right? That's got to be an exercise period. And then they're studying how to read by memorizing Buddhist texts and so forth. Then they're studying the meaning of the texts. So as their kind of elementary school or high school, as it gets more advanced. And then they have 2 meetups a day where they do the common practices of the monastery, which are all chanted group practices, when I was in 3-year retreat, it suddenly dawned on me that I had been thinking that there were monasteries someplace where people were attaining enlightenment by really focused on the yogi path, the practice path. I don't know how it is in other schools of Buddhism, but in general, monasticism is focused on being a virtuous and learned monk or nun in the tradition of the Buddha, learned mainly in Sutrayana, or the common teachings of Buddhism. And it's rare, but not unheard of, to find in a monastery that is mostly adults. And that I suddenly realized that we were doing in retreat what I thought was being done for us by somebody else. Does that make sense to you? I suddenly started to say, oh my God, we have a responsibility to this world to practice. if you don't get it, it sounds superstitious maybe, but I think it's really important that people are practicing the practice path of Buddhism. And largely, this is the path of dedicated lay people. This is, so I had a long, discussion today online about that. Also, I'm interested how things pop up, and people, in our tradition of Buddhism, it's going to sound, if you come from another tradition, you're watching this later on, it's going to sound really weird, and I don't mean any disrespect about this. We need the monasteries to pass on the doctrine of the Dharma, carry forth the textual tradition, the empowerment traditions, and the formal Buddhism. This is really important, and we have to establish these in the United States and so forth. But that doesn't equate with enlightenment or an unenlightenment. It's another job. You have a job, a monk or a nun has a job. And we should revere them for giving up so much to live in relative poverty and devote themselves to Dharma. I have total respect. But don't denigrate yourself and say, somebody else is going to do this. I don't have to do it, of course you don't have to do it. But you know what I mean? Take yourself seriously. In the Mahayana path, we all are viewed as having Buddha nature, or the inherent capacity for enlightenment. Right there. Remember I talked last week about it's pictured in the heart sometimes, like this light in the heart. Or maybe a little Buddha in the heart. And in our Nyingma tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, and this is going to sound weird to you if you're from some other school, it's very optimistic. Like, they have an idea like you already are a Buddha, And then all you have to do is remove these temporary veils. They're so superficial. And then it'll blossom and come forth. Boosh. In that we're equal. Everybody is equal. There's only the people who have boosted and the people who, like myself, who have not boosted. And, maybe so Nyingma tends to be an all-in-one kind of enlightenment, presentation of enlightenment rather than this gradual path of the Mahayana tradition. But we could also look at it that way. There's percentages, surely, We're on the path. Things do advance until that boosh. Boosh is not a technical term, don't think it is. So I'd like to do our second session of meditation. We do 3 in each of these, right? And what is the second one? Well, we're going to focus on the breath this time. We brought in a third one, didn't we, all of a sudden? I just had an urge to show you a little more advanced kind of propless meditation. So here we go. We'll focus. We're using an object for this. And when we started out today, I suddenly did an objectless meditation when there really wasn't a there. But here we're going to use the prop of this that is used so often because it's not solid, really. And it's expanding and it's merging with space, which is your actual breath. Okay, so let's do a meditation on the breath. And oh, hi, Candy. Wonderful. What happens is, you guys, just so you know, is you're so nice to be here and give me support everything during the actual session. Then people actually do watch after the fact. 20 people we about that right now, and feels very satisfying. Oh yeah, the breath. So same thing. Find the place in your body. Most people, it's where the breath comes out, just here. And enters the space around you. You feel it, and they feel it there at your lips or on your tongue. Other people really don't feel anything there. They really can't get a sense of that, and they need to go deeper in the mouth, and the throat, and the lungs. Wherever you feel that breath, and Bring your attention back to it on the out breath. Each time, just breathe normally. As soon as you start thinking about breathing, you don't breathe normally, right? But try to remember how to breathe. And as your thoughts, return, just breathe. Just come back to your out breath. It can, your nose and mouth are both, a little open, and air will go out. You'll bring your attention to it, and then you'll find it going out again. That'll be a reminder to bring your attention to it. And then very quickly or slowly, your mind will wander to everything, and then you just bring your back to the out breath. Okay. I could go on like that for a long time. Good. Thank you for putting that up, Lori. Lori said peaceful relief gratitude when she feels this relaxation, this opening feeling, and non-conceptual meditation. That was way back on that topic. There's actually quite a bit of a delay between when I speak and when you receive what I said in the electronic system we have set up here. So there's a sense of maybe being substandard to somebody, that we Americans are substandard to somebody over in Asia, probably a monk or nun. And you have every quality that they have except knowledge. We do lack knowledge. So we do need to study and learn some Dharma. It's hard for us with our short attention spans. It's hard for me with my short attention span sometimes. We do need to know, for example, the Four Seals. And both of you who are watching live on here have gone through with me, but all compounded things are impermanent. These are the essence of Buddhism in a nutshell. All emotions are pain. All things have no inherent existence, and nirvana or enlightenment is beyond concepts. And we can go back and read What Makes You Not a Buddhist by Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche if you have questions about those. It's not really on our topic list right now, but these kind of, if you telescope out all those topics, particularly the topic of emptiness, there's a vast literature out there. And certain people with a certain kind of mind, frankly, I see mostly men, really get into the intellectual aspects of Dharma. And somebody needs to do it, And it's really good, really refining the view of the path that they're traveling in Dharma. Somebody has to do it. And some people feel it's super necessary, and if you feel it's super necessary, then you must pursue it. It wasn't the path that my teachers pursued. My teachers never studied that stuff. They were really devotional practitioners who followed the path and the teachings that their teacher gave them, and often on the basis of this great perfection, or the highest level teachings in Buddhism, from our perspective anyway. But the thing is, it can be another sense of inferiority if you take it to its extreme, like you have to be a super scholar, like equal to the greatest Geshe or Dharma scholar in Tibet that studied for 20 years, from when they were a little boy. Before you can practice, before you can have confidence in how to practice and so forth, you're missing the mark. This is there's a sense of insecurity there, isn't there? A substandard feeling, like I'm not going to be good enough unless I, really become a book learned scholar. It's better to be in the middle, to learn what you need to learn according to your teacher's instructions, and practice from the beginning all the way through. Prioritize practice. Then after 10 or 20 years, you'll know a lot of stuff. And if you don't feel that you're comfortable practicing because you don't know enough, then by all means go learn stuff. But what I'm saying is, right, substandard. We're not substandard, not at all. It's just a knowledge base. The vocabulary isn't magic. It's words that have meanings. So, anyway, I think there's an infinite number of storylines we can invent, but how did this come up for me? Oh, I missed that whole point. Did I? I sort of was getting there, and then I drifted off. Patrul Rinpoche said, in the words of my perfect teacher, yeah, we talked about Buddha Shakyamuni. This is the age of Buddha Shakyamuni. We're in it, so we're very lucky. And if we should grab the opportunity to study and practice Dharma. And then also, we were born a central land. There's a central land idea is what started me all on this topic, which Patrul Rinpoche never directly addressed. But this whole, a central land was originally defined as where Buddha was. So he attained enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, India, on the Vajra seat in a certain place under that Bodhi tree. And they have a Bodhi tree there. And so that area around there, and India in general, was a central land. But Buddhism almost entirely vanished from India. And it went to Tibet, China, Thailand, and so forth, Sri Lanka. Right? And then those places became a central land because that's where the Dharma was. And now, because of the internet and the traveling of Dharma teachers from Asia, we are becoming a central land. Whether we're there or not, the actual definition of a place to which Buddhism has come, according to Louis Lancaster, the Dharma scholar, formerly of UC Berkeley, I think, was a place where monks have gone, abide, and a place where Dharma texts have come, and a place where there's relics of the Buddha. So we have a lot of relics in these stupas or reliquaries, and we have a lot of, more always good, and then we have a lot of Dharma texts, almost infinite, with the Buddhist Resource Center. Online used to be called the Tibetan Buddhist Resource Center. Now I think it's B something RC. Infinite Buddha texts, and so many translators are working to translate every single text in the tradition. It won't happen in our lifetime, but eventually. And then monks and nuns, limited. So that's a weak area, for this country, but there are some. So we can say Buddhism has arrived here, and maybe everywhere, because of the internet, is a central land now. I'll leave that to others to say, but we should consider it so. So Patrul Rinpoche was basically, this is my point, all these pages on the precious human birth was saying, you've got what it takes. You can do this. And this is, not only do you have what it takes, but you may not get this, next year or next month or tomorrow. You may not have these circumstances, so practice. Take yourself seriously. And, this was beginning the introduction to the foundational practices, or ngundro, and the way that they practice in that day. And some people, like myself, still practice in this day, as we started out with the ngundro, and maybe did it more than once. Ngundro means preliminary practices, a lot of accumulation of merit and wisdom through repetition of 4 to 6 different practices that are put together in a power pack. And so it's exertional, you put a lot of effort into it, so he's also trying to talk people up for that, right? I'm just trying to get you to meditate right now. Is it working? Okay, so I think that's about all I'm going to say on that topic. I think I came right around to the point. Let's meditate now on the Amitabha, the Buddha of infinite light, the big red Buddha in front with his begging bowl in his lap and his hands like this. Everything's backwards on YouTube from when I look at the screen, it's all backwards. If I hold up a sign, all the letters will be backwards for you. And that seems to be on all the internet live streaming. They're all like that. I don't know how to get around it. So my hands are probably opposite of this, The left is on the bottom, right's on the top, with this bowl there, glowing, made of light, this beautiful classic Buddha with simple saffron robes, his legs crossed, peaceful. And we will do this little liturgy, which I stuck up in the description for this video. You can read and sing along with me. Or you could sing mentally. If you're in the room with other people and it would be embarrassing, you can sing along mentally. with me. It's good to get involved. So we'll start over with refuge and bodhicitta and go on. And remember, you're visualizing yourself as a highly evolved bodhisattva in this white Chenrezig with the forearms, also a meditation posture, almost enlightened, praying, sort of with holding a jewel here, right, with two of the hands, gazing on Amitabha in the sky in front. Here we go. Homage, the three precious jewels and the three roots. I go for refuge to these homes of refuge. I spark the Bodhicitta as supreme awakening, so I may place all beings in enlightenment. A nexus of a pure realm of ecstasy is not other than the world we already know. In this instant I'm a white Bodhisattva with one face, 4 arms, and 2 palms together. In the right hand is a mala, in the left a lotus. I am seated cross-legged on a lotus and moon. In front on his own lotus and a moon seed is the protector Amitabha red complected. One face, 2 arms in meditation mudra. He wears Dharma robes and holds an alms bowl. He's seated in cross-legged posture. To his right is white Avalokiteshvara. To his left is blue Vajrapani. There's an entourage of infinite enlightened ones, bodhisattvas, hearers, and the worthy ones. Light rays spread from seeds at their brows and throats and hearts. Invoking wisdom means from Amitabha's pure land. They dissolve into the scene inseparably. From the heart of Amitabha, from the letter free, lights radiate again, pervading all space. All beings are cleared of wrongdoing and hindrances, and freed up from deep reoccurring suffering. Om Amitabha Shri, Om Amitabha Shri.
In front, the transcendent conqueror melts into light and then into me. This body of mine dissolves like a sky rainbow, becoming unified emptiness and light. By this merit may I quickly attain the state of refuge, boundless light. May I and living beings, every single one, find our placement on that very ground. Find our placement on that very ground.
So you don't just jump right up after practicing. Start talking or resume all your conceptual habits, but try to merge your daily experience with your meditation experience. So just relax there until naturally the thoughts all come up and they make your body move. It's time to go do virtue in the world. So, and we're almost there, time to go for us, virtue in the world. I'd really appreciate it if you would click like for this video or live stream. And by clicking like, it'll make more people eventually. As more people sign up as followers on the channel, follow the channel, and more people click like, that brings the attention of the computers of YouTube, and then they recommend these videos for other people. And that would be, I think, positive. All right, well, you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday at the same time, same station. Bye now.